When she was 3 years old, she was cooking hot dogs by herself, standing on a chair over an open flame because no one else was going to feed her. Her dress caught fire. She ended up in the hospital with severe burns. And when her father showed up, he didn't apologize. He snuck her out of the hospital without paying, called it a rescue, and told her the doctors didn't know what they were talking about. That little girl grew up to be a successful writer in New York. And the most disturbing part of her story isn't the poverty or the fire or the neglect. It's that for most of her childhood, she loved the people who failed her and genuinely believed her life was magical. Today we're going inside the glass castle and the dark psychology of how a broken childhood rewrites a child's entire sense of what normal means. The Glass Castle is Jeannette Walls' real memoir. The true story of growing up with a brilliant but alcoholic father and an artist mother who simply refused to be a parent. It sold millions of copies, not because it's a sad story, but because it exposes something most people never examine. How children survive the unsurvivable by bending their own minds. By the end of this video, you'll understand the psychological mechanisms that let a child love a parent who's hurting them, and why those same mechanisms follow us into adulthood. Chapter 1. Normalization of Dysfunction. Here's the first thing the book reveals. A child has no baseline. They don't know what a normal family looks like. Whatever they're given, they assume is just how the world works. The Walls children moved constantly, what their father called doing the skedaddle, always one step ahead of bill collectors. They went hungry for days. They dug through trash at school for food. And yet, as a child, Jeannette didn't experience this as abuse. Her father turned their poverty into adventure. The promise of the glass castle, a beautiful glass house he swore he'd build them one day, complete with blueprints, made the chaos feel like a dream they were all chasing together. This is the psychology of normalization. When dysfunction is all a child knows, the brain doesn't flag it as wrong. It adapts. It finds the magic in the madness. Because for a child, believing my parents are doing their best is far less terrifying than the truth that the people you depend on for survival can't, or won't, keep you safe. Chapter 2. Becoming a parent. When a child becomes a parent. As the children got older, something quietly disturbing happened. They started parenting their own parents. Jeannette and her siblings were the ones managing money, finding food, looking after each other. Her mother, who had a teaching degree she refused to use, would rather paint than work, even as her kids starved. At one point, they discover their mother secretly eating a chocolate bar under a blanket while her children went hungry. The roles had completely reversed. The children became the responsible adults, and the adults stayed children. Psychologists call this parentification. When a parent can't function, the child is forced to grow up overnight, to suppress their own needs and become the caretaker. And here's the dark long-term cost. These children often become hyper-competent, hyper-independent adults who literally cannot ask for help. They learned very early that depending on someone is dangerous, so they spend their whole lives making sure they never have to. Chapter 3. The Trauma Bond. Loving the abuser. Now the hardest question the book forces us to ask. Why did she love him? Her father, Rex, was charismatic, brilliant, and at times genuinely loving. He'd teach his kids physics and give them stars as Christmas presents when there was no money for gifts. And then he'd drink away the grocery money, disappear for days, and steal from his own children's savings. Jeannette adored him anyway, for years. This is the psychology of the trauma bond. When love and harm come from the same person, the brain doesn't separate them. The good moments become more powerful, not less, because they're rare and unpredictable. It's the same mechanism that makes a slot machine addictive, intermittent reward. You keep chasing the next good moment, forgiving the bad ones, because you never know when the warmth is coming back. That's why children of unreliable parents often defend them the fiercest. The love is real, but it's wrapped around a wound, and untangling the two can take a lifetime. Chapter 4: Resilience and the Price of Escape. But here's what makes The Glass Castle more than just a story of suffering. All 4 children eventually escaped. One by one, they saved money in secret and fled to New York to build real lives. Jeannette became a journalist. Her siblings found their own footing. They broke the cycle. Psychologists would call this resilience, the ability to adapt and grow despite adversity. But the book is honest about its price. Even after she made it, Jeannette spent years hiding her past, terrified that if anyone knew where she came from, they'd see her as less. She'd ride past her homeless mother in a taxi, ashamed. The escape was physical long before it was emotional. And that's the quiet truth here. Surviving a broken childhood and healing from it are 2 completely different things. You can build a successful life and still carry the child who learned that love was conditional, that safety was temporary, that you were on your own. Resilience gets you out. But the real work, the work of actually putting it down, comes later. So here's what The Glass Castle leaves you with. A child will rewrite reality to survive. They'll normalize chaos, parent their own parents, and love the people who hurt them, because the alternative is too frightening to face. None of that makes them weak. It makes them survivors. But if any of this felt a little too familiar, here's the part worth holding on to. The story you were handed as a child was never the whole truth. And as an adult, for the first time, you get to decide which parts to keep and which parts to finally set down. If you want more of the dark psychology hidden inside the books everyone's heard of but few truly understand, subscribe. We go deeper every single week. I'll see you in the next one.